Okay, we are back like we never left. Episode 20 of the Small Cap Review. Was a little sick at the end of last week, so didn't make the last couple of days worth of videos, but like I said, we are back at it. On this Tuesday after the holiday weekend, it definitely was a little bit slower day in the market, but still got about 5 plays to talk about today. And we'll start with the leading gapper, STSS, which had a 223% gap. So obviously huge gap there. Let's take a look at the daily chart and see what this looks like. So the big thing for me here was where it opened here at about 68 cents was below this previous level of consolidation here. So I knew that here just to make it bigger. I knew that these were going to be key levels, and out of the open, it was so close to those levels that on the long side, I really was not interested in this name, especially when you pair it with how big of a gap that it previously had and how many shares it traded in the pre-market. We can see here, this tool out, that it traded 92 million shares in the pre-market. So to get that 4-to-1 volume ratio in the first hour, it really would have to go crazy. And we only get that 2-to-1, a little bit more than 2-to-1 volume there. So all those things led to me not being super interested. But here in the pre-market, this was an area that I was interested in, right above the after hours highs. It came up, it spiked, retested this level, and kind of was basing on top of it in pre-market. So the only trade in my book was going to be a dip off of open into this zone. Now, that is what we got here. It was a little bit more drawn out than I would have typically liked, but ended up being a clean move from this pre-market low zone up to the pre-market highs. So you could have gotten a nice trade if you're waiting maybe higher low, waiting for it to break back out, entering somewhere around there. You do get a almost 35% move on this spike up into pre-market highs. Just have to be quick to get that sell-off before it drops back down into this range. So like I said, wasn't a name that was super interesting to me off of open, but it did give the pullback that we were looking for and the zone to zone move. So decent trader there. And of course, once that happened, done for the day. Let's do POAI. I think that was the second leading gapper here, 51% gap. Whoops. All right, we'll start here at the daily chart. And this was one that I was interested in on the short side. And the reason for that being, I still have this pulled up. Whoops. Whoa. Whoa. um, let's see. If you, we'll do this on screen. Whatever. We'll do this live. If you look at the filings for this company, they had a $200 million offering with a effect active on it. So let's see, POAI. And I won't really get into looking for it because that's a whole another thing. But you see here this shelf registration that has been amended on the 21st with the notice of effectiveness here. And you can see that that is what it is. We'll open it up just to, in case you're not familiar, this is what it looks like. You see here $200 million that they may sell from this time, offer and sell one or more offerings up to 200 million in any combination of debt securities, common stock, preferred stock, warrants, units, or subscription rights. So they definitely needed to generate some cash. They had, I think, like $500,000 worth of cash in the entire company. And so when they have the opportunity to sell $200 million, um, that's what that's why these stocks are on the market. So these people can generate money for these little businesses and make a dime along the way. So what I was looking for, back to the daily chart, prior level of consolidation here, very clear on the chart. So I was looking just for a short into the zone, which we got here at open. Pretty nicely here above and below the level, clear place to set a stop down to this next obvious daily level. Where the line is totally messed up here, but it is from, gosh, right there, that upper pivot. And so we had a nice zone to zone play here, and we did not achieve the targets of the 5-minute 200 when it was here. It ended up actually absorbing and taking out these highs, but again, getting sold off into this zone. So I would say out of all the plays today, probably the short on that on POAI was the easiest one of the day. You just had to do a little bit of research to find out how strapped for cash these people are, and how they do have that offering on the table, $200 million worth, which is a lot. Okay, let's do OBLG, another one of the gappers. This one was 30%, so not a huge gapper, but this one had an interesting look. Let me pull this up. Start here on the daily, and as you can see from the intraday chart, lots of levels where this thing was opening up. Had a ton of pivots here that were clear, easy to mark out, and it was opening, right kind of towards the bottom of that zone. So in my head, there was just a lot for it to work through, for it to be able to make a move up. And, on this previous gap day, opened around the same area, struggled to fight through these zones, and then gave a ton of it back and all of it back within the next couple sessions. So that was in my mind. You did have this kind of nice spike day here previously, that kind of went up through this to this previous level of consolidation. I think I've said that phrase like 5 times already, but it is what it is. And so what do we have going into the day? Super low volume at the open. Yeah, it may be hundreds of thousands or a million shares per 2-minute candle, but you have to keep in mind this is a 20-cent stock, so that's not the same as a million shares of a stock over $1. This is light volume here. With that light volume, you get a little bit more choppy price action, from candle to candle. So when I was looking at this just on the side chart, I did not trade it. There's a couple areas that were interesting to me. The top here at around 2280. That was interesting to me because we kind of had this flat top that we broke out of, and then we saw a pretty clear base on it, and then it start to curl up. And what you're looking for on a name like this is increasing volume with it. So you do get a couple candles here where you get the increasing volume, and of course, as the trend goes on, it really increases. But with action like this, where you're, up into this daily zone, and then you spike below it, you're thinking the play's over, but you get absorption. And, after you see this, I mean, for me, with the low volume, it is harder to give a candle like this as much weight, um, because when it can just be, uh, kind of whippy, I guess would be the word I would use for it. You just don't know if that's really getting absorbed or if there's just a quick wick below. Really have to be locked into the tape to see something like that. But you do see it get absorbed and then get this move higher. So you do get a stuff that is absorbed, which is usually a great key for a long move. And of course, this does go right down to these daily pivots, which if this name as a whole had more volume, not going to pretend like I couldn't trade it when it's trading, millions of shares, but if it had more volume, easier to read that way, I could have been interested perhaps in this move higher. But we do get a move up out of that zone. Don't really have that many key levels over here that I could draw without going to an hourly. So you do get that kind of tweezer top up at the top of the move, and then kind of a retest of these intraday zones, or not even intraday, these daily zones, this previous consolidation, and it fades back off to those lower pivots. So decent name, kind of tricky to trade just because of the price action and the lower volume at the morning, but when volume did increase and we did get that stuff that is absorbed, it gave a nice high percentage move, 45% or so. So good trade there if you were able to capture it. Now let's talk PEGY, PEGY, you dirty dog. This is this is what I had traded this morning. So what was I looking for on PEGY? This is a multi-day setup here. What I liked about it was we had this very clear gap above. We had a gap above all the other levels in this run. And then we also had good volume. It looked like, even in the first couple minutes, you could tell that this volume was probably going to be more than the 450 million it had in the run up to this move. So I like the volume, I like the clear price target, and I liked where it was gapping up to. So how was I going to play this? This is the daily zone from 2 days ago, that previous high of day. So it had a nice consolidation in the pre-market at this level, and I was looking for one of two things: either a dip to this previous high of day that gets absorbed and a push higher, or a move above the pre-market highs and a dip back down to them, and hopefully a gap fill. So how did I actually trade it? So when I saw this buying out of the gates, I was patient. I almost, hand on the trigger when it was right here at this opening gap level. Did not take the trade and then watched it really go away from me here. So, I was kind of proud of myself for having the restraint not to just slap into that thing, but saying, okay, we're going to get a pullback, likely. And we get this, kind of fake breakout stuff candle into the zone. Again, almost bought it in the zone, but just with the fake breakout, wanted to be a little bit more conservative, see it hold up. And we do end up getting that action. And as we saw here, I was waiting for it to move, maybe closer to, into the 32 cents, but this level, the actual pre-market high here, which was 33.84, was holding, was not breaking down. So I went ahead and joined here on this 940 candle to capture this nice move up. And I was really, like I said, hopeful for the gap fill. That was the move I was looking for entirely, which would have been a nice 30% plus move. But I ended up getting out on this candle. We had a fake breakout. We had this lessening volume, and I went ahead and said, all right, I took half profits off here and moved my stop up to break even. And, when I did the trade recap for myself right after the trade, the things that I have to kind of toy around with and see, continue to see what works best. Maybe I should have taken 3/4 off, maybe the whole thing. And maybe looking to re-enter and just making it two separate trades. So instead of getting half the profits that I could have gotten, you know, um, instead of capturing the whole thing. So hindsight is always 20/20, but that is why we review every day so we can get better. I was looking at this a couple of different ways. This is a little bit of a head and shoulders type look here, which is sign for this failure, but gap level holds, and then it goes below later in the day. So this thing is still a little indecisive. We're not going to say that there's no shot that this fills the gap this week, but all this makes it a little bit tougher to get through if it is going to go back down to this daily zone or below the previous high of day. And let's see, VHAI, I'm not going to spend too much time here because this would have been not the easiest trade to just, get into, but this was one I had continued over from last week. Had a decent little setup going on, and, the trade ended up being, probably the most simple one you could have taken off the previous high of day. Opened right on it, bunch of wicks into it, and then, higher lows, higher lows, higher lows on top of VWAP, and we get this decent move higher to take out the high of day from the initial move here on the 17th. So, like I said, I mean, it just was not really on radar. Maybe you could have taken it here at this dip to VWAP and gotten a decent play out of it here, or stuck with it and got even more. But like I said, I don't want to spend too much time on here just with the low volume. But as always, if you're looking for continuation plays, previous high of day is always that key level to be watching. So if you see it building off the previous high day, um, decent time to take long and just set your stop right below that high day or low of the current day that you are trading. So LIDR, last one I wanted to talk about, another multi-day setup. This one gapping right above, again, this previous high of day level. Let's draw this out as a little zone. We'll probably do that. Oh, man. And there we go. So actually, I would even pull this down a smidge more. just to capture these wicks, kind of this area that it stops and this upper consolidation there. So when you have that on the chart, paints a pretty clear picture. So what do we have? We open right at it and we rip up above, and then we end up getting this halt down move. So right here is a pretty decent short going off of the high of day here from the 15th. The high of the move so far. You kind of get this lower high up into it. So decent short opportunity right here. Whoops, I unplugged my microphone there, but we're back. So decent short opportunity right there. And then it cannot break down below this previous high of day and this opening level. So you start to see these lower wicks and this higher low action as it starts to get absorbed and for this move higher. So if you had this previous high of day drawn, makes this move a lot easier to spot. I like watching these halt down moves. If it's a halt down and it gets absorbed and we're making higher lows, there's a decent chance that we get a squeeze out of it. Now, this was not the biggest squeeze in the world. We just get up to this clear daily zone, which is the, say it with me, previous consolidation lows. So we just get to move up into that zone and then a nice rejection out of it. On this, again, this consolidation here on top of VWAP and on top of this day one of the move, if you want to call that day one, not even day one, this previous high of the move, this nice consolidation here was something that I was eyeballing but did not participate in. And then it gives a dumperoni with cheese, and it is done for the day, I would say, from here. So like I said, for a slow day in the market, still plenty to talk about. Sorry, I skipped out on the end of last week, but I am feeling better and back, and we'll get 4 videos out this week. Any questions, any topics, any tickers you all want to discuss, leave them in the comments. I appreciate you all tuning in. If you're into day trading, if you want to learn about actually, not gambling, but actually trading with a risk mindset, stick around on this channel. That is what we discuss here. So again, appreciate you guys tuning in. Hope to see you at the next one, and have a good day.